Hi everyone, I'm Lee Saville-Iksic, and this is the MeadowSong Podcast, where we tap into the healing, transformational power of music and myth, because every life is an epic story, and every experience a work of art. Full transcripts of every episode of the MeadowSong Podcast can be found on the show's website. To find the transcript for this episode, go to MeadowSongPodcast.com. The essays featured on the show are also available on my personal website, and you can find them by going to saville-iksic.com/essays. Not too far from where I live, there's a beautiful park consisting of a mile-long walking trail that follows along a small run of water. The park is somewhat hidden, surrounded by winding roads all lined with suburban mid-century homes. The small run flows down through a gorge that was obviously cut over thousands of years, and from any of the houses that border the park, you would need to walk down a significant hill before finding yourself on the walking path. I visited the park the other day, and while walking along in the direction of the water, I was reminded of how psychologist Carl Jung described the flow of human psychic energy as existing on a gradient, a slope that declines in a certain direction so that our energies naturally gravitate towards some image in our lives. He called it libido, the sense of desire and will we might have for anything in our life, not just sex. What Jung was getting at is something like the psychological version of what the yogis of India call prana, the Sanskrit word for breath, also translated as life force and vital principle, a universal energy that flows in currents in and around our human bodies. Standing on the path in the park that day and looking up to see the houses around me, I thought how it's often true that in order to get in touch with our own personal flow of vital energy, we must somehow get below the structures of our personality that have been constructed as a response to culture, the roles we are expected to play as we go throughout our days, the influence of media, advertisements, etc. Thinking again on the water, I was reminded that, though it may take a while, all water eventually makes its way to the ocean. And the ocean, in many an old poem and story, is thought to represent eternity, the great spirit, or the collective unconscious. And as we know from the natural history of our planet, as well as many creation myths, the ocean is also the place of origin for all life on Earth. Reflecting on my walk alongside this little stream reminded me of a guest teaching experience I recently had. I was brought into a high school chorus class to conduct a songwriting workshop, and I started the whole process by asking the students to do a stream of consciousness writing exercise. They were simply to keep writing whatever came to mind. In other words, to follow the gradient of their own thoughts and feelings for a solid 10 minutes. Afterwards, they would send me whatever they felt comfortable sharing, and I would use ideas from what they wrote as the basis for lyrics to a song that I would write and then workshop with the students. The students were all together in their classroom for the process, and I joined them by video call. After they had begun to write, I got off the call, knowing that I would see them again in just a few days after reading what they sent to me. Their teacher, however, sent me a text message shortly after I got off the call, astonished at how focused the students were on what they were writing. "You could hear a pin drop in here," the message said. Just like that little run of water in the park that sits below all of the houses that surround it, the exercise seemed to give the students permission to drop down beneath the various social expectations that might govern the majority of their waking lives, and they were moving with the flow of what they were feeling. When I read the writing, I was struck by the pain, frustration, and boredom that rose out of an overwhelming majority of the submissions. In particular, the theme of betrayal by friends, teachers, and parents was evident. Betrayal is a strong word, but it seems like the best word, honestly, to characterize the loss of trust that seemed to be at the heart of the stories I read. It was clear to me that these students were aching for connection with other people, and that a year of social distancing, while important for keeping everyone safe, had made that need all the more dire. Wanting to honor the struggles they were experiencing, I began to write words and music that rang out with a sense of desperation. To be honest, I was afraid that the song might turn out to be a real downer. But when I sat longer with what the students wrote, I picked up on something else, a more subtle destination towards which their collective energy seemed to be flowing. And that was hope. In the middle of the park that I keep describing, there's a waterfall. It's small, as waterfalls go, about 25 feet, but it's the biggest one in the area. It's beautiful to look at, but to fall from the top of it would be quite damaging to a human body. I would venture to say that the songwriting workshop found many of the students in a waterfall moment. With such a sudden change in psycho-emotional elevation, such as the shifts we have all been experiencing over the last 2 years, it's perfectly normal to feel pretty tossed around, even battered. And it's also true that after traveling over the waterfall, we are also that much closer to the ocean. The time that we, the students and I, spent together putting these feelings into a song seemed to give them the chance to step back from the waterfall, consider where it's leading, and recognize the beauty, bittersweet though it may be, in all of it. I'm going to share the song from the workshop as our listener submission for today's show. It feels right. But first, this excerpt. When I went to the piano with the ideas and images related to the flow of water, the flow of energy, it occurred to me how the ocean can be churning and teeming with life, and also peacefully calm and expansive all at once. Here's a little excerpt of that improvisation. You can hear the whole thing by going to patreon.com/MeadowSong Podcast and find the post titled Where the Water Flows. The post is public and accessible to everyone. So for today's episode, I'm sharing a solo piano version of the song that came out of the workshop I discussed earlier in the episode. Also, I happen to have a little clip of the students singing the song from a rehearsal. Here are some of the lyrics you'll hear them sing. Sometimes I wish that I could just be left alone. People seem to be so cruel. Sometimes it's painful just wanting to be known, so here I am, left feeling like a fool. I want you to be near me. I'm longing to see clearly. I'm looking for where I belong. The time when I can just be the person who's inside me. A place where I'll be safe my whole life long. And sometimes when I hear the voice of a friend, I know that what I'm feeling must be true. There's something in this life on which I can depend. The promise of the birth of something new. And hope is here with me.
Sometimes I wish that I could just be left alone. People seem to be so cruel. Sometimes it's painful just wanting to be known. So here I am, not feeling like a fool. I want you to be near me. I'm longing to see clearly. I'm looking for where I belong. The time when I can just be the person who's inside me. A place where I'll be safe my whole life long. And sometimes when I hear the voice of a friend, I know what I am feeling must be true.
Thank you all for listening. I'll leave you now with the piano music. Until next time, I wish you all things best and beautiful.